Welcome back, my subscribers. In this video, I want to go over my thoughts on the Mathey Tissot watches. This is a watch that I've personally had for about 7 years, and I recently got interested in trying out different colorways to see if I could still recommend it based on my time having it and these new colorways. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's take a look at them. So the first thing to point out with these watches is going to be an obvious one. They look like vintage GMT Masters, which is part of the reason to get one, but also could be a deterrent because I'm just going to be upfront. They put a 24-hour bezel on a watch that doesn't have a GMT hand. So that's going to be a very big negative on this watch. There are ways to kind of try to justify it, and I remember looking up different explanations to see if there was something I was missing. Why would they put a 24-hour bezel on a watch that is not a GMT? There's no way around it. I don't think they should have done that. It was mostly to be able to put that bezel with those colorways, and they thought it was just like an homage to the watch. So that's the reasoning. I think that they went with it. Digging deep into the Reddit threads, there's some people that say just divide it by 2 and you can use it like a GMT. But at that point, they could have just done a bezel with 1 through 12 instead of, 24 hours. Anyway, had to get that out of the way because that is something that confused me for many years. When I first got this watch as a gift, not really knowing what's up with this bezel. Why is it 24 hours? I didn't really know much, so I didn't question much about the second hour hand not being on there, the GMT. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the merits of this watch. Why it's a good deal if you buy it from Gemma Shop, not directly from the retail. Please do not overpay for this watch. That is a big caveat here. It is Swiss made. It is using, I think they're currently using some sort of clone of the ETA now that the ETA expired, their patent expired. So reliable movement, Swiss made, sapphire crystal, stainless steel, aluminum bezel. What's not to love? Old school dimensions for this watch. This is giving me vintage 5-digit Rolex Submariner vibes. It wears like that. It has the nice curved ends of the lugs that you would see in a vintage Rolex. 20mm lug, so makes it a strap monster depending on the colorway you get. So on paper, this is an amazing offering with a Swiss made option. Now let's look at the actual watches, their colorways, and let me give you my more thorough thoughts. Like I said, the difficulty will be in selling the reason why the bezel is the way it is. If you are able to look beyond that fact, it is an amazing offering that is actually kind of hard to find. If you go even on AliExpress or any other brand that has made an homage to the Submariner, like Invicta's, you're going to find a couple of things. 1, those watches will probably be pretty chunky. 2, they probably aren't running a Swiss made movement. 3, they're probably not sapphire crystal. And if they are, I mean, that is a win. And 4, the price point. So with these watches, I've used this watch as a daily when I first had it, and now I use it occasionally because I have other things that I enjoy wearing. If you're able to ignore the fact that it is not a GMT, but it has the look of a GMT, this watch could be for you. I personally, my mom gave me this watch when I got my master's degree. She knew how much I loved the Pepsi from Rolex. This gives you the vintage look of the Pepsi, and I'm not gonna lie, I mean it's a good looking watch. I actually still enjoy wearing it, and I don't mind wearing it knowing that it's not a GMT. And I think the dial also is pretty minimalist. I'm not a fan of their logo, but I do like that we have the cursive Mathey Tissot. This is a brand that's not as well known, I think, in the world, but it has long history. So there is some heritage, but obviously they are trying to make money off of, homaging the Submariner and the GMT. There are more modern styled versions of this. There are GMT versions of this with an actual GMT movement, but we're looking at now a 42 millimeter case, 49 or 50 lug to lug, which I just don't like. I prefer the vintage proportions of those 5 digits. These are 40 millimeters with about 47 lug to lug. So they just wear so much nicer, in my opinion. They give you that vibe. They're super thin. I think they're 12 millimeters. They're where they should be, and they give you the looks that you want. So loving the Pepsi design. I think the color that they picked for this Pepsi is also great. It's a dark blue and it's a sort of dark red. So I really like that colorway. I have always been a fan of the all black bezel GMT from GMT Master 2. I have struggled to find a good homage or an alternative to that. It's pretty challenging, especially when you're asking for these types of dimensions. There are some options out there from like Steinhardt or Seiko, but in my opinion, they don't give you the Rolex GMT vintage vibe. The Steinhardt's lugs, after having 2 or 3 of those, I got to use them for a long time. They didn't convince me. I'm not a fan of the cut off, squared off lugs on the Steinhardt's. I just feel like the original oyster style case with those lugs just make it flow a little better on the wrist. And the bezels on Steinhardt's sometimes felt a little bit too much like a toy, or the ceramic colors were too bright for me. I think I'm being picky, but I just really, really like that vintage style of the original. And this is the only one that has given me that, at least from the Pepsi style. The hour markers are not, these are not applied hour markers. They're loomed, but they're vintage loomed. So that's going to be a pro and con for some of you. I get that you want the vintage color loom because it's homaging a vintage watch. But in some cases, I think it's a little bit too strong. On the Pepsi model, you'll notice it kind of blends with it because of the other colors on the bezel. But when you look at the all black dial or the all green dial with green bezel, I think these overly aged loom make it kind of look fake and like a toy, in my opinion. I wish they had gone with a slightly less vintage loom or just kept it normal. Because they're not applied, they stand out a little bit too much with a minimalist dial. Okay, so let me talk about the black bezel, black dial. I love this colorway. I think I was, when I had it in my hands and on the wrist, I think I was like 40% convinced that I wanted to keep it. But that rest of the percent kept making me question why. If I already have the Pepsi and I enjoy the balance of that dial, I just don't think the black with black and the aged loom looks as good. I think the aged loom might pop too much on this dial because everything else is black. So I may be wrong, maybe it's your preference and you like it. It's just very difficult to judge it, picture versus in person. In the picture, I had seen it to be a little bit too orange, but I was like, let me see if in person it's not the case. And I think if I didn't have the Pepsi, I think I would be okay with it. But I don't know. I think I was overthinking the overaged loom. Everything else just looks so good. I mean, I love the case. I love the size. It's got great specs, but there was just that little bit that kept me from pushing to keep it. And I've had the Steinhardt version of this with an actual GMT movement. I've had it in ceramic. I think I would want to try it in aluminum. I think the ceramic is a bit too glossy on Steinhardt's. I just don't think it goes as balanced. And I think the bezel to dial ratio and the rehot is not as good as it could be on Steinhardt's. I think there could be a little bit better improvement there to make the dial look a little bit more balanced. I think these dials look good and these bezels look good. This bezel, particularly on the black dial one, did have some little play in it, and I click, just by touching it, it would click a little bit. I was not a fan of that. I think it would bother me to know that there was play on the bezel, and that's not going to go away. Like, you'd have to probably remove it and readjust it. The green on green did not have any play. That one felt great. I will say my Pepsi one was the best feeling action, but it is older. So I wonder if they changed something between now and then, or if it's just, you know, quality control. Bezels are pretty tricky in general. So green on green. I love green bezels. I wanted to see, I know there's no GMT with green and green. It's more of like the anniversary with green and black dial. So I was like, let's try it out. Maybe I'll keep that one. For my personal opinion, I think the green is too strong. I think I would have preferred a darker green. I think a darker green on the dial and the bezel, or a black dial with the green bezel, I think would have convinced me more. And I would have considered it more, because I do like that combination. I think you need that balance. That tone of green on green is a bit too much. So unless you are a big fan of that color specifically, I still think the Pepsi is the best option. And that's where I'm going with this review after having the Pepsi for 7 years. I mean, I loved it from the beginning. It has the looks, it has a balanced dial. I think that's the one to go for actually. The price, if you go directly to the website, these are close to $1,000. If you buy them from Joma Shop, they're about $250. So make sure if you were to buy one of these, to make sure you search it first, and like on Google, to do a price comparison. Don't overpay for this watch, because it's not an actual GMT to match. I think this is going to be more of a collector's or a personal taste acquisition to put money into. Like, I would say they feel and are nicer than a lot of the Invictas I've had. Invictas have a great look and construction and feel, reliable movement as well, but I think they are too thick. They're about 13 to 14 millimeters, if I remember correctly. The last mega review I did of 5 different Invictas, current models, I think they stand too tall. They're very nice. They look beautiful. The colors are awesome. Man, if those same colorways I reviewed in that video were 12 millimeters thick, I would not have gotten rid of those Invictas. The fact that this Mathey Tissot homage is 12 millimeters or less, it fits so nice on the wrist. It feels so light. It's a Swiss movement. You get the sapphire crystal. I don't think Invictas are doing sapphire crystal yet for some reason. They used to have a Swiss made line where there was sapphire crystal, but I think they cut those off. You could still find them on eBay, but they're going to be like priced up because of that. So I kind of wish there was a merge between Invicta and what Mathey Tissot is doing to create the perfect 5-digit homage watch with all these different colorways. I think Invicta has the key on the balance between the dials and the bezels. Very thick rehaut. I think that's one of the things that bothers me from Invicta as well. If they could blend that with what Mathey Tissot is doing with a Swiss movement, the thinness, and oh my God, that sapphire is like a bubble sapphire. It is beautiful. You could see it when you put it sideways. I took some shots of it. You could see the sphere, slight sphere over, and it just adds so much awesome vintage look to it. If those two styles were merged, I think that would be my favorite homage to the Submariners, the 5 digits. I don't care if it doesn't have a GMT movement, just don't make it a GMT if you're not going to be a GMT. But yeah, I kind of wish it was a merge. The Mathey Tissot is 100-meter water resistance, so it's not like the Invicta. That's probably where the thickness is coming from, but I also think the Invicta thickness is coming from the case back being like you could see the movement. If they opted out for that, it would be more flat. So I think they could save some millimeters there. But in general, the case thickness is significantly smaller on these Mathey Tissot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. These are just my general thoughts after having one of these for 7 years and considering adding one of these other colorways, because I do like the Pepsi a lot. I kind of wish, I do always wish it was a true GMT movement. So stick around for more. I'm going to be reviewing one that I found that might settle me for now, because I do love the Tudor GMT Black Bay 58. I don't think I would ever want to spend the amount that it costs to get the Rolex GMT Master unless it was a vintage one. But even then, I mean, you have to be committed to that type of investment. A Tudor is a bit more attainable, and it looks amazing. I tried that thing on. Oh my God. I've been on an itch since then. But I think I found something that is not copying it, but it is inspired by these GMT Masters, and I'm really excited to show you what that next watch is. Stick around for that video. It'll be coming soon.